super shed for some more stories. I hope everybody has been staying safe and taking care of their families. And have you been remembering to wash your hands? You have? Oh, that's great. Now it's time for a story request today, and it came in from Reuben. I wonder what story could it be? Dun dun dun! Our story request today, requested by Reuben, is Little Red Riding Hood. Once upon a time, there was a girl called Little Red Riding Hood, and she lived at the edge of a big dark forest. Little Red Riding Hood had a grandmother who lived on her own in a cottage on the other side of the forest. One morning, Little Red Riding Hood set off to visit her grandmother for lunch. And she did this every week. Little Red Riding Hood skipped along the path, through the forest. But soon she became tired and she decided she'd have a big rest under a tree. As she closed her eyes, Little Red Riding Hood heard a voice behind her, and it said, "Little girl, are you lost?" "I'm not lost," she said. "I'm going to visit my grandmother, who lives in a cottage on the other side of the forest." Little Red Riding Hood replied. What Little Red Riding Hood didn't know was that she was talking to the big bad wolf. The big bad wolf wanted to gobble up Little Red Riding Hood right then and there, but he decided he would race ahead to her grandmother's cottage so he could gobble both of them up for lunch. The wolf ran ahead until he reached Little Red Riding Hood's grandmother's cottage, and he knocked on the door and he listened. "Who's there?" called a voice from inside. "It's me, Little Red Riding Hood," replied the wolf. The wolf opened the door, and before Little Red Riding Hood's grandmother could even scream, he gobbled her right up. Quickly the wolf put on her nightcap and glasses, and he tucked himself up nice and cosy into the bed. When Little Red Riding Hood reached her grandmother's cottage, she knocked on the door and she called out, "Grandmother, it's me, Little Red Riding Hood." "Come in," said a voice from inside the cottage. So Little Red Riding Hood opened the door and she went inside. Little Red Riding Hood thought that her grandmother looked a little bit strange, so she switched on a lamp near the bed. "Grandmother, what big eyes you have!" exclaimed Little Red Riding Hood. "All the better to see you with, my dear," replied the wolf. Little Red Riding Hood crept a little bit closer. "Grandmother, what big ears you have!" gasped Little Red Riding Hood. "All the better to hear you with, my dear," replied the wolf. Little Red Riding Hood crept right up to the bed. "Grandmother, what big teeth you have!" cried Little Red Riding Hood. As the light glinted off the wolf's teeth, "All the better to eat you with!" shouted the wolf, leaping out of the bed. Little Red Riding Hood screamed, and she swung her basket as hard as she could at the big bad wolf. The basket was very heavy, and it knocked the big bad wolf all the way over. Just then, the door to the cottage swung open, and Little Red Riding Hood's father arrived on his way home from wood chopping. Little Red Riding Hood told her father all about how the big bad wolf had eaten her grandmother and tried to eat her too. Little Red Riding Hood's father grabbed the wolf and squeezed his tummy, and out popped Little Red Riding Hood's grandmother. Little Red Riding Hood's grandmother was very happy to be back, and she agreed to come for tea at Little Red Riding Hood's house. Little Red Riding Hood, her grandmother and her father walked out of the cottage and pulled the door closed behind them. And they never saw the big bad wolf again. And that's the end of our story today. So I hope you enjoyed your story request, Reuben. I'd just like to remind everyone, send in all the photos of your work to supershedstories@gmail.com and we can pop them in the gallery on Friday. And thank you so much for all the donations on our Facebook page. We're really close to our target, so please keep the donations coming in. Thanks for myself and Aaron. More stories soon. Bye.